Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We're going to wait just a few seconds and let some more people hop on. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining our webinar today. We're going to be talking about next-gen application management, and we're going to be doing demos of Recast Software's Application Manager and Liquit, our latest acquisition. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You have resources that are available for download within the On24 window, so make sure to leverage those. This is going to be an interactive webinar, so we want you to chat with us, submit your questions throughout the webinar. There's a Q&A box. You can be submitting those questions. We're also going to have a couple polls throughout the webinar. And we're going to be doing a giveaway. We have 4 $100 digital gift cards to give away. Just by being on the webinar, you're automatically entered into that. But for each poll question that you submit or any questions that you submit through the Q&A box, you'll also get an extra entry for those giveaways. And those giveaways will be announced within the next week, and we'll let you know the winners via email. So my name is Haley Safontes. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Recast Software. Today, I have joined with me Will Teven, CEO of Recast Software, Marty Miller, our Senior Solutions Engineer, and Stuart Donaldson, Field CTO for North America. So before we hop into the content of the webinar, we're going to start with our first poll. How are you managing third-party applications today? Take a minute to answer this, and then we'll share the results.
Look at that. I'm bad at webinars. I was on mute. Well, hey, no, I think that's, what's to be expected. I think everybody's, trying to do the best job they can on managing applications in every organization. But, it's still very much the Wild West, and we'll get into that. Hey, can I get the next slide? Thank you. Well, hey, I've got 3 slides, so I will make this as quick as possible so we can get into some of the more interesting things from a demo perspective. I just want to intro Recast a little bit here. Thank you all for attending. I know you are all very busy, so taking, this time out of your day means a lot to us. So thanks again. So really, this job is hard. I mean, this is where Recast is focused. We've always and will remain focused on helping a group of very smart people within every organization keep the rest of the company productive. And I could go on and on about this, right? Like every organization, doesn't matter if you're 300,000 devices or 1,000 devices, you've got a small group of people to keep the lights on and make sure everybody can come to work and do their job every day. And this takes tools. Tools to better understand your environment, tools to manage access better, tools to deploy and keep software up to date, and tools to quickly and easily take action. I always say most employees take a functional and secure device at their fingertips every day for granted. Most employees can't even fathom the level of planning, thoughtfulness, and the daily care and feeding it takes to make that a reality. We sit on calls every day with people who do this for a living, and the hurdles, the constant fires, it's a never-ending battle of move ad changes that nobody is able to completely keep up with. So this is where Recast remains focused, is helping this group of individuals tackle the day-to-day, and we do that with obviously focusing on these core components at this point in time. Can I get the next slide? Perfect. So today we offer a number of products, and they're targeted at known pain points. And these pain points are really universal to managing a large fleet of devices, whether it's desktops or laptops. And they're really, regardless of industry you're in, that's the thing about Recast, it's completely horizontal, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're in government, state or local federal, oil and gas, education, everybody has, some level of the same components, maybe with some more regulatory hurdles. And so, these tools are really pointed at solving a lot of those problems. Today, we're going to focus on Application Manager and Liquit, and we'll get into that here shortly. But this is also kind of a vanity slide for us, right? 125 countries served, 70,000 active monthly users, a 90% renewal rate, well over 1,200 customers at this point. But we're really proud of these statistics, right? Like, Recast has come a long way over the last 5 years. And we continue to serve, a very supportive community of customers with, the products that we currently have in the portfolio and things that we've added recently. And we're also very focused on, like, where you are, like, whether you're primarily managed by Config Manager in some state of co-management or cloud native. I think, we have the ability to meet you where you are. And then also where you're headed. So, that's something to keep in mind. And that's part of the strategy behind, what we'll talk about today, having Application Manager and Liquit new to the portfolio. So next slide. Perfect. So patching and application management, we've been super focused on it over the last few years, building up, a larger portfolio of offerings, both from a catalog perspective as well as a functionality and software perspective. And we'll continue being focused on that in the years to come to get more robust in all those areas. Software patching, like I said, on all the things that Recast focus on, it's a universal struggle. It is the Wild West, right? Like, updates come out daily almost, with really no set singular location to find out what's updated, what's new, and why it's updated. Is it feature related or is it vulnerability related? And so it's almost impossible to get ahead of this. And, we have a lot of tools that we feel and believe can support you in that mission. And I think, one of the things to consider too now is so much of application delivery is not just about keeping the environment secure. So much of the experience from an employee's perspective is the device they're working with, right? Like, I'm at the office today, but I think I'm the only one at the office today that is on this webinar. But right now, like, the only interaction like Recast employees have with Recast on a daily basis is the device and how they get access to the technology they need to do their job. So we're constantly being judged not by just our ability to keep things secure, but how do we deliver applications? How is that process when I need something? How is it updated? So it's just something that we'll remain focused on, and I think you'll see in the demo some of the things that we're doing to provide a better experience to the employees. But I think that's pretty much what I wanted to get across today. Without further ado, I can turn this over to Marty. But thank you guys again for making time, and hopefully I kept that as brief as possible so we can get into some technical stuff. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. We are going to move to our next poll question. And the next poll question is, what does your environment look like today? So are you still living in the config manager world? Are you co-managed? Intune, VMware, Citrix, or other, which, you know, if you have a really cool other that you'd like to share, you can go ahead and share that in the attendee chat if you want to as well. So we'll take just a couple of seconds to get some data here, and then we'll take a look at what Application Manager has to hold. We need some music or something. All right, let's go ahead and see what the results look like. All right, very interesting, very good. So I think that's kind of what we expected, right? Config Manager, and then potentially co-management as well. Intune, pure Intune, maybe a little bit lower than that, and then some of the others, VMware, Citrix, and other that are there as well. That's super helpful. That's going to actually kind of talk about, show what I show with our Application Manager demo. So thanks a lot for that information, and we're going to go ahead and go there now. So I am going to start to share this screen here, hopefully. Okay, hold on one second. All right, so hopefully, I can't tell, hopefully you are seeing my Application Manager portal page. Okay, perfect.
We're good.
Yes, great. Yeah, there we go. Now I can see it in my window as well. Very good. So what we are looking at here is our Recast Application Manager portal. And you may be asking, I'm working in Config Manager. Why in the world do I need to take a look at a portal? Or I'm working in Intune. Great, I like portals. I don't know, something like that. But what we're looking at here is, we'll talk just a little bit about our Intune. So if you're co-managed and maybe you've moved some of your application deployments over to Intune, we'll take a look real quick at that. Or if you're pure Intune, we can also take a look at how those are deployed here as well. So basically what we're doing here, and we'll go ahead and look at the Intune page. What we are doing for Application Manager on the Intune side is we are going ahead and creating what we call deployment processes that we set up once that basically will determine how applications are deployed in our environment. So we create a deployment process that we can choose which applications go out that way. And you can have multiple deployment processes, as we're showing here, because perhaps potentially you want certain applications to go out more quickly than you would like other applications to go out. Perhaps you want web browsers to go out more quickly because they update more often, or are, you know, just something that generally doesn't break when you update it. So you do those as quickly as you can, and then maybe some others you hold off a little bit further. But here is actually also where you are going to create the deployments. So you're going to go ahead and set how you would like these to go out, if you'd like them to be required, available, or an uninstall deployment, when you would like to schedule, how quickly. All of our scheduling is kind of based, and if you think about Application Manager, the idea behind Application Manager is third-party patching. How can we get these applications patched as quickly as possible? So everything is kind of based on when the application comes down into the environment as to when the deployments are going to be going out. So in this one, which is going to our pilot devices, we are going as soon as possible with both of these because they're pilot devices and we're not worried about if we're going to break anybody. In fact, maybe that's how we're testing these things. So we go ahead and make it available as soon as possible. And then there's just some additional settings that you can set with, if there's a restart required, how are we going to do that? What kind of notifications do people want? Do we need delivery optimization priority? And you can also have email notifications when things go out, and if there are any problems with creating the deployment or creating the application. The thing that's good to remember with Application Manager is both on the Intune and on the Config Manager side, it is using the native deployment methods for both Config Manager and Intune. So most of your information that you're going to be getting is going to go ahead and actually show up in Config Manager and in Intune. So if you're looking at how deployments are going, if you're looking at where you are in the deployment process, all of those things are going to show up on that side. There is one other thing that we can take a look on the Intune side is we can see what has happened as far as scheduled deployments go. So we can actually see, here are the deployments that have been completed or have been sent so that, Intune is working on these. Intune is right now making these happen, essentially. So because of how Intune does all of its things and with plugins and how that all works, this essentially is where you would be setting all of your settings for Intune, which is different than how you're doing your settings for Config Manager. So in Config Manager, when you want to maintain an application, what you're going to do inside the portal here, the only thing you need to do on this side is this is where you will turn on or off the applications that you would like to update. So this is going to take just a second to load, but as it does, you can kind of see we go ahead and turn them from inactive to active over here on the side. And then as it finishes, we can kind of see we've added just a couple of applications that we're updating, like Google Chrome, because Chrome updates a lot. So it's nice to take a look at. 7-Zip is in here, and then there's a couple other browsers. All we need to do on this side is turn things on. Where we actually set up how we would like the deployments to look is over here on a little piece of software we actually call the Application Manager Integration Client. So the Integration Client, what it is going to do, this is where you would set up in Config Manager how you would like the applications to be deployed and how quickly you would like to have them go out. Now, we use an application model for deploying applications in Application Manager. There's a lot of applications there. Sorry about that. But we use the application model, which means we're actually creating an application in Config Manager and having it update the current one that's already installed. You in these settings, this is where you actually set like where are you going to store these the applications as they come down. What do you want them to look like in Software Center? Do you need to use any supersedence rules? You can have it supersede all previous versions, only the most recent previous version, or maybe it's something that can install multiple versions and then you don't need to use supersedence at all. But one of the other nice things that's going to happen, and this is where we set it, is that it actually will clean up after itself as well. So when you set them up here, you'll set them up one time. You'll set your applications up one time with who you're going to deploy to, how the application is created, who you're going to deploy to, and when you're going to deploy it. Application Manager will take care of the cleanup. So when deployments are finished or they've been replaced by newer deployments, those deployments are going to be deleted. Applications that are no longer being deployed will be retired. They will also be removed from removed from Config Manager, so that removes them from like your distribution points and removes them from Config Manager itself. And then we actually also can remove the media as well, so that you don't have, and I hate to pick on Chrome, but I don't because I do it all the time. You won't have 800 versions of Chrome that are still living there because Chrome has updated itself 800 times. So let's take a look at what that looks like in Config Manager itself. Now, we mentioned that we're doing the application model. So what you're actually going to see is we created a folder called Application Manager, and here are the ones that we're actually updating in our environment. So Google Chrome is just a quick example. What we have right now is we had a new version that came down on yesterday, actually. So if we look real briefly at our deployment settings, this is where we set how we'd like our deployments to go out. So our test string goes out immediately and then becomes required a day later on a working day. And our full deployment becomes available 2 days after that, and then is forced a day later on any working day. You can also set this to a specific day if you want to, or you can also set this to a specific time rather than just any time. So if you wanted to use a UTC time or a client local time, you can do that as well. So what's happening over here on this side is Google Chrome is showing that we have one of our older deployments that's still available because we want to make sure that we always have a deployment that's required. And our newest one, the second deployment hasn't become required yet. Our full to everyone deployment hasn't become required. And that's why we're showing 2 here, and we still have 1 deployment that's available here. Now, I noted that we're using all the normal ways of deploying applications and making deployments. So if you needed to, if you want to, you can go ahead and take a look at how all of this is set up. You can also look at the deployments themselves. And if you needed to, you can go ahead and stop deployments right from here as well. One of the other things you can do, we always make sure that we leave 2 versions here in your application section. That way, if you need to go back a version, if you're using something, you find there's a problem and you need to go back a version, you can go ahead and stop these deployments and then create an uninstalled deployment for the newer one and then deploy the older one again so that you at least can go back to that earlier version, which less people complained about or nobody did or whatever. So that's how all of this works. This is all automated. I like to say we set this up, this demo environment actually got set up in like July, I think. We installed Application Manager. We haven't touched anything. And Google and all the applications that we're updating just continue to roll as new versions come up. It creates new versions, makes them required, installs them, and then as deployments finish, it cleans everything up. One last thing before we finish with this part is, again, because we're using the regular deployment way of deploying applications in Config Manager, we can actually see all of our deployments right underneath monitoring and deployments. So these are all the deployments that were being automatically created by Application Manager. And you can, any other reporting that you use outside of in your Config Manager console that you're just used to using to deal with deployments, you can absolutely take a look at right here. And I'd be remiss to say, but one other thing that you can certainly do, just a tiny little plug for right-click tools, one of the other things you can do with right-click tools is because we're doing it as an application model, we can actually see the applications that are deployed to the device right here. All of these have been installed, but if there were some that weren't installed, you can go ahead and start the install right from here. If you need them to go faster or you want to test to make sure that everything works right, you could take a look at Remote Software Center real quick and do applications right here. That's from the enterprise version of right-click tools. So that's just a brief look at what Application Manager looks like and how to set that up. We'll answer questions later as we go through. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Marty. I really appreciate that. That was a good introduction to Application Manager and some of the stuff we can do. I just want to welcome everybody. My name is Stu Donaldson. I am the field CTO for Liquit, now with Recast. The idea here, Liquit is a very big product. There is a lot of really cool stuff that you can do. Let me show my screen here real quick, because obviously I've forgotten to do that. I'm going to try and show you some of the most important features of the platform. And then should anybody want to get deeper into the platform, I'm more than happy to give a demo individually, or if we have some questions at the end of this, I'm more than happy to answer them. So Liquit is a company based in the Netherlands, started around 2015. When I joined, I hadn't heard of them either. Saw them on the Citrix user group list of global sponsors, and it just so happened they contacted me right after that. And friends, I really got to take a look at this. And one of the reasons I joined is the platform itself really takes a look at the end user compute landscape and tries to answer a lot of the problems that we just weren't answering with the products that were out there. One of the things that we saw is there was a lack of tools to really take everything that we've got in our environment and bring them together so that we could manage them in one place. But not only that, but we could provide them out to our end user and do it in a consistent way that made things better for them, made things a little bit easier and more intuitive. And one of the things that I really see as a trend across the entire landscape of end user compute is a new focus on digital employee experience or just user experience in general. End users are our customers, no matter whether we're in the enterprise, we're consultants, we're in the vendor space. We're trying to find a way to provide a tool to an end user so that they can do their job. And Liquit is really, really good at that. So let's go ahead here. What you're looking at right now is our front end. This is the Liquit workspace. Now, this can come in a variety of form factors. We really don't care how you want to end up deploying applications out to your end users. This happens to be our HTML5 portal. We have an app very much like Citrix Workspace, where you would use VMware Horizon. We can also deploy out applications through Teams down into your start menu, your desktop, on the OS X dock, or through maybe a custom app portal that you have within your environment. With that regard, with all those different ways of deploying things, and with this idea, one of the things that I like to call out is Gartner. They label us as a workspace aggregator, and what that really is it's a tool that can kind of control and orchestrate a number of different delivery methods, different application types, and do it in a context-aware manner out to a number of different types of endpoints. So what does that really mean? I like to think of it more of as like a multi-platform application delivery, access management, day two operations, management of those applications, but really that hybrid type of environment that we're all working with. When I think about Liquit, I'm really thinking about it in three different levels. So we'll start on the back end. The back end is what we're really focusing on in this webinar, which is really the application and software delivery, as well as that kind of worry-free lifecycle management that we like to talk about. Where our product really differs from the rest of the tools that are out there in the edge compute space is that we are also a infrastructure aggregation tool. Now, what does that mean? Everybody's application estate within an environment is different. Every customer I've ever been in as a consultant, my environment when I was in the enterprise space, they were all different. Some of the applications I would deliver to end users were through Citrix. Some of them were local apps. Some of them were web and SaaS-based applications. Some of them were based out in the cloud. So we have all these different ways of getting applications to end users. But let's be honest, if I'm giving an end user Excel, or if I'm giving an end user, say, Adobe Acrobat Reader, right? I don't want to have multiple different ways for an end user to access those applications. But in the back end, I need those different ways for end users to be given these applications. And I have to keep them all up to date, no matter where they're coming from. So that's where Liquit can come in and can help. Right here, again, you're looking at our main interface. Now, if I move over here to our management section, and you only see this as an admin, I can come into where we really look at the heart of the system. So I mentioned that we are an infrastructure aggregation. So right here, I have a connector back into my setup store, which we'll talk about here in a second, and then to a Liquit demo environment as well. Now, if I wanted to build out a connector, you can see here that I've got any number of different platforms that I'm natively able to integrate with, including Citrix, including Microsoft Azure Virtual Desktop, RDS, Nutanix Spring, Okta. So a lot of different options there to bring in and aggregate applications from a number of different sources. But where, again, one of our big differentiators and kind of the core of what I want to get to in this webinar is our setup store. Now, our setup store is one of the ways that we help you manage local applications. Within our setup store, we have approximately 4,000 Windows applications, about 100,000 branches of those applications. Very, very big catalog. Now, that store is curated on a daily basis. Actually, it's ongoing every single day. We are taking all of those applications and we are scouring the internet. We're bringing in new applications at all times. We're breaking them apart, scanning them with various malware scanners. We're doing everything we can to provide you with that 65, 85, 95% of applications that everybody is using within their environment. Do I normally care whether or not an end user is using Adobe Reader or Foxit? Not normally. I just need to know that everything is up to date. And with our setup store, we're making sure that all those applications, day 0, day 1, are getting those updates. Chrome updates all the time. We're making sure those updates are constantly being added back into the environment, and then they're being distributed automatically out to your end users. Now, that's all well and good, but we also have a lot of custom applications that we may want to use. And while I'm talking about that, I just want to bring up the setup store. You can see just how many applications we have in here. And this is just page 1 out of any number. We've, like I said, about 4,000 applications. We also are able to take custom applications up into our environment. So for those line of business applications, maybe it's a healthcare related application, a financial application that are much, much more complicated. We can take those applications and we can bring those in. You can upload them directly to us, and then we can help manage those in a fashion that falls in line with, again, what we're trying to do here, which is aggregate a whole bunch of different delivery platforms. So let's go ahead, and after we looked at the connectors here, I want to go ahead and I want to take a look at what does it look like to grab an application. So I'm just going to put where info. And you can see, again, I've got a ton of different versions of this application and again, a bunch of different applications that I can pull in. Now with the setup store, our default type is going to be a managed application. That's the type of application that is going to be always managed by our setup store. It's going to get those updates automatically in most cases. When I'm doing this, I can take a look at, do I have any existing packages out on the machine that I need to update? Are there any dependencies that I either want to ignore or don't want to ignore in this process? But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this in into my development environment. And I can see here that this particular package has had an alert brought up on it. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to see what might be going on with that particular package. So again, you can see the number of virus scanners that we bring in, and we strip apart these products and we make sure that your environment's going to be okay. Our CVEs here, there's nothing listed for this right now. We can take a look at our release notes for this particular product, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to bring this in here. From a configure standpoint, I have the ability to add in any types of command line parameters they may want to use. If you think about what it looks like to install Adobe, you realize there's about 1,000 different checkboxes and other things you need to select such that you don't add in McAfee or whatever they're packaging with it these days. But this is all broken apart by our application intelligence engine, and you can use those checkboxes to kind of build what these installers look like. So cancel out of that, move forward, give myself, actually in this environment, I'm just going to do everyone because it's my local demo environment. And so here I've got different stages that I can deploy this out into. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it in production. I want to send it out to our catalog, and we'll show that here in a minute. But our catalog is essentially an app store that we can use to kind of enable and empower our end users, right? So again, I brought up the idea of, do we care about whether or not my end users are using something like Foxit Reader versus Adobe? I really don't anymore. You know, it used to be that we had to maintain tight control of what people were using because I didn't have the tool sets to make sure in a large organization that I didn't have that resource sprawl. I didn't see applications all over the place. You know, one user had this, one user had that. Were they being updated? I didn't have any control over that. But now I can give a curated app store of resources to an end user. and I can let those things get updated automatically such that I can stop worrying about those things. And I can focus on that 5, 10, 15% of applications that really need handling. Catalog, go ahead and do this and publish it. And what I'm doing now is I'm pulling down hardware info out of the backend setup store that Liquit maintains and manages. In here, I have a number of different options I can associate with this application. I can set up dependencies for it. I can manage my entitlements. Here in the catalog section, I'm going to go ahead and feature this on a catalog so it pops when I go look at it here in a second and show you the install process. I can even add reviews. I can add different media types in here to kind of, again, make the environment, give it that App Store-like experience. But really what I want to show you down here is our action sets. So right here, this is a very basic set of action sets that we as Liquit, we provide for you when you're using that managed application model. So right now, it's just set up for install and launch. But here in a minute, I'll show you what a more complex application will look like when you decide you want to go with an unmanaged type of scenario. So right now, instead of throwing in the tester acceptance, we're going to pray to the live demo gods, and I'm going to drop it in production. Go ahead and confirm that. And I'm going to flip back over here to, oops, didn't save it, so it's not going to be featured. But go down here, grab hardware info. And we're going to get that. So that's going to pop up on my workspace automatically. And there it is right here. I'm going to go ahead and pop it in. And what's going to happen now is it's going to reach out and say, hey, is this application installed? No, go ahead and install it. That's what that action set was set up to do. Once it's installed, it's going to launch that. Now, with this process, I'm actually going out to a location where this is not very close to me, but data locality is always important, but you have the option of setting up different places where you can go out and you can grab applications. So they could be CDNs out there, either internally or externally. You could use Azure Blobs. You could throw it into a file server somewhere in your network or at a branch site. You could also cache these things in a trickle fashion in the background down to the endpoints. If I had a really important application that I wanted to install and launch really immediately, I would go ahead and maybe I want to bring it down to a cache locally on the device, and that stuff can all be set to clean up automatically. A new version comes in, the old ones get superseded, and then we've got a very quick application process. So when we let that install, I'm going to pop over here and I'm going to show you a different application and what that might look like. So from the standpoint of updates, I mentioned those a second ago, and we can do these things automatically. But here I'm going to show you the process of grabbing one just, again, from the setup store and seeing that. Oops. What? I'm going to synchronize that, check for updates. I can do this in a more manual fashion. If you want to do it in an automated fashion, we can do that in the background, so you don't have to ever worry about it again. We can do that in a, hey, here are your updates. I sent you an email in the morning, and I know this is available. I'm going to go ahead and authorize those things to go out automatically. Or I can run myself through a DTAP process where I say, okay, this application is more prone to having problems within an environment. So instead of just giving it out to everyone all at once, I'm going to run it through that development test, that acceptance stage process. I'll give it to the acceptance users. Those who are authorized to see the application in an acceptance standpoint, they're going to automatically get that application the next time they launch it. And then when it goes out to test, the bigger group of users is going to get it. And I throw it in production. At that point, everybody within the environment is going to get that next time they launch it. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at our updates. And I've got a number of different updates here. Let's go ahead and let's just grab Snagit. It's very easy. And let's see. One here, I just want to look at my action sets real quick. All right. Go back and Snagit. I'm going to apply the update. It looks very similar. I'm going to go ahead and put that into development real quick. Again, CVEs looks very similar to what I would do when I bring in an application. It takes longer than others because I go to a very, very far away environment. Again, I can see the various different configuration options, release notes that are associated with that. Go ahead and finish that because I want to get to a bunch of other stuff and we are running out of time. And that's going to go ahead and it's going to pull that into the environment. Okay, I want to pop over to my other demo environment here. So the environment itself, very customizable. You can see this one looks slightly different than the one that I was just in. What I wanted to show you here is some of the things from the standpoint of application priority, or the power of what really makes all this come together. So the front end, again, hybrid workspace that takes in applications from a number of different areas. One of the easy things to see here, I'm piping applications into Teams. You can see I've got stuff coming from Citrix, I've got stuff coming from RDS, I've got local applications. What I want to show you here is the essential part of the platform is really powerful contextual automation engine. So this engine is designed to build a context around what makes me at any given time, what makes you at any given time. And that changes throughout the day. So say I'm in the office now, and what we determine as administrators, the best end user experience for a person is to get the locally installed version of that application. That's great. Let's go ahead and entitle them to it. Let them grab it out of the setup store. Let's automatically put it into their workspace. But when they're in the office, we're going to give them that locally installed app. Okay, they click on it. It's going to check and see if it's installed. If it's not installed, go ahead and install it, system. Does it need an update? Go ahead and update it if it's already there. But again, we're trying to give them the best version of that application for that time. Now, I move out of the office, and one of the things that may be a better end user experience is perhaps the online version of that application. So let's say Excel and Office 365 portal, or even the Citrix version of that application. The important thing to remember is when I click on this Excel icon, an API call is being made back to our environment, and it's saying, okay, what makes Stu at this time? Whether it's I'm on my laptop, I'm into the office, I'm out of the office, I've got a certificate on the device, it's 75 degrees and sunny outside. I mean, you can get as creative with this as you want. But the point is, when it determines what this context is, it's going to inject the settings that are necessary for that end user in that context, and then it's going to launch the appropriate version of it. So outside the office, the Citrix version. Inside the office, it's going to do all its checks and launch the locally installed version. End user doesn't have to know that they are clicking on or that they're getting a different type of resource. They just click on Excel. So it makes it very intuitive and very accessible for that end user. Let's go back here real quick and let's take a look at our updates. So from a package standpoint, I updated, oops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I updated Snagit, right? And how much time am I here? I think we're good for a few more minutes. I want to go ahead and I want to take a look at my actions here, and I can see that I've got a new version of this application, 2.0, 2.2. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw this out into production, and that's as easy as that to get that new version of the application. So when I go out to my workspace and I take a look at Snagit, oops, I didn't grab it yet. Sorry. Let me get it. I'm going to get that new version of that application. All right, so some of the other things that we can use real quick. Variables, condition sets, action sets, all these things are very important to design that kind of contextual environment that we're looking at. So if I want to pull into one of my packages here, an easy one to use is PowerPoint. I've got that set up right now. So right now, the application is set to go to PowerPoint 2016. So if I go out to my workspace and I click on PowerPoint 2016, it's going to launch that application. But let's say that now I want users to go out and run it from, say, Office 365 out there. So you can see I've got a change here. I'm going to go ahead and throw this into production really quick. Come out to my workspace. And when I launch PowerPoint, instead of launching the local version of that application, it just opened it up in the web browser. So just a little bit of the power that you have with the Liquid Workspace and the various different ways that we can classify and define the application such that that context is always, as it's changing throughout the day, it's always being represented. It's always giving the end user the best possible version of an application. It's always making sure that if I have an application that I'm using, it is automatically updating that application if I've decided as administrator I want that application to update. Let's see. I think that is probably, I think we probably run out of time here. There's a lot more to get into here. Again, the platform itself, I like to look at it in three ways. as a contextual automation engine in the heart of it. Behind it, an infrastructure aggregation system that can, in conjunction with our Liquid Setup Store and those thousands of applications and branches of those applications, whether Windows apps and soon to be actually OS X apps, we can combine those Citrix versions of applications. We can combine those online version of applications, SaaS, web, all those different ways that you might be deploying applications to your end users. And you can manage them all in one place, use the contextual engine to decide what is the best version of that application and what settings need to be injected into that application as they launch it for HR, for finance, for Stu, for Bob, whoever it happens to be, and whatever we've decided that end user needs in those different situations, and then present it out into a front end that can be shown in a number of different ways. Again, whether it's in the local machine on the start menu, on the OS X docs, on the taskbar, within Teams, within SharePoint, a custom application portal, our application, or even here in our web-based version of all this. There we go. So that's it for now. I think it's probably time we moved on to questions for Application Manager, as well as for Liquid and anything else that you guys might have. Let's see, we have another poll. Haley, do you want to push over to that?
Yeah, while we're doing this poll, I just wanted to say thank you, Stu and Marty. That was fantastic. And I'm sure most of you, this is the first time you're seeing Liquid, as you know, is probably common for a lot of our customers. And you know, obviously, I'm super involved from the beginning on some of these things, but Liquid is probably one of the coolest companies you've never heard of, and they've been very successful in some parts of Europe. And you know, some of the proof points from a Recast acquisition standpoint was some of the largest organizations in the United States came to Liquid, and they are customers of Liquid, and they are, you know, in production, and you know, to a relatively unheard of company. So it's been fascinating to watch. There's also Liquid, the back end of Liquid is OEM'd into a number of products that some of you might even use today. But you know, I think there was an announcement yesterday about the expansion of supporting Mac products within VMware's Workspace ONE product. So, and that's all backed by the Liquid engine. So it's a fascinating organization that I think we're going to see a lot of traction in the future. But obviously, we'll get to Q&A here, and if anybody needs any help or wants to do any deep dives on anything you saw today, reach out to, you know, if you're already working with Recast, your customer success manager or account executive, you're currently in process, and then also, you know, just on this from a polling perspective, you guys can reach out here, and we'll get in touch with you. But thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you all.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the easiest way, if you're interested in a tailored demo of either, you know, Application Manager or Liquid, is just to answer this poll, and then we'll reach out to you to set that up. I'll give a couple more seconds.
Yeah.
And we can hop into questions.
Sounds good. We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. We'll go ahead and answer those. If you do think of other things, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A as well, or you can reach out to us. You know, if we have other questions that you don't think of here and you want to ask later, you can certainly do that at another time as well. So we'll go ahead and start looking at them. The first question that's here is, how does the number of third-party applications that you support stack up against, and this one says, for example, Patch My PC, or you could think of any other management solution, right? How do we match any of those other management solutions? The thing I'm going to say right here about this is we think we match up very well. But what's more important for your environment is that we're actually managing what you need, right? Do we have coverage for the applications that you are most often packaging? Do we have coverage for applications that are most often being updated in your environment? And I would say no matter who you're talking to about getting, doing third-party application management, make sure that you're getting the widest coverage in your environment that you possibly can. That'll either help you with, you know, that you don't have to package Chrome 800 times a year, or other applications as well. So, you know, it's you can kind of mess with numbers when you say, hey, we have, however many apps, because different versions and different languages and all that kind of thing. I would say if you're looking at anybody, make sure that you look at the number of apps that are covered from your environment.
Yeah, and I just want to second,
absolutely.
let me just add on to that. I feel like when we get this question, we kind of come off that we're dodging it. We're very confident in the number of applications that are in the catalog as being one of the largest, if not the largest. We have made a decision not to publish a list of applications publicly. So, but with that being said, anybody who wants to get an understanding of their coverage, we can very easily create you an account so that you can log in and see all the applications and match them to what you have. It's not a hard process for us at all. We just want to make sure that that's behind some type of controlled wall, mainly because it's so dynamic in nature that anything we do publish or send out in any type of asset form will be stale almost immediately.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. As part of the problem with that is as soon as we send that out, with the way our engines are running in the background, we're constantly getting new versions. We're constantly getting new applications. And heck, I didn't even show within the Liquid environment. If you click if you look at the packages that are available, the resources that are available from our setup store, there's actually a request button. And I'm fairly certain, I know I'm new, but there's one in Application Manager as well. So if you have an application that's not there, you can request it from us. We'll go out and we'll get it as long as that's something that's feasibly able that we can get to it. It's not behind a paywall or something. And then from the standpoint of custom apps, you can always upload those into our system as well.
Yeah, and to answer another question that's here, obviously, is around just the application catalog in Application Manager. So obviously, the Liquid relationship is new to Recast, and we're doing a lot of integration work, both from a business perspective as well as a technology perspective. We will be moving, we have people that manage application catalogs at Liquid, we have people that manage application catalogs at Recast. We will be consolidating those teams and moving to one source of truth from an application perspective. So you will see a common set of applications across both software offerings in Application Manager and Liquid in the near term. I'd say very much probably by Q1.
Awesome. That big smile on my face that's great to hear. That's great to hear. There's a question here. Does the Application Manager require the use of Intune? Can it be used? Can you do Application Manager and Intune and Config Manager, basically, is what it's asking. So yes, Application Manager works with both Intune and Config Manager. That is all under one license. So if you are doing some kind of co-management, you're on the path to going that direction toward Intune, it's not going to change how the licensing works. You can start working on it and then move from one to the other as you need to, as you're going through, if that makes sense. How often are the applications updated? What type of verification testing is done prior to releasing to the public? Applications update all the time. We have processes behind the scenes that are updating those applications as they become available from the manufacturer. We are not testing the applications themselves to see if they have any bugs or any things like that. So if you're running Chrome and you find some weird thing in Chrome, that's Google, right? Or Alphabet or whoever they are now. That's their problem. What we are doing, we will make sure that the application can be deployed correctly. And we will make sure that that part works, right? So that you can actually get it out into your environment. We do not do any testing on the application itself, just on the deployment method and how the applications, it's using application kind of twice, but the way the application's created, like in Config Manager, we're assured that that part is going to be okay. We don't test actually the actual product itself to make sure that it's going to work.
Right, and one of the things that we're doing on the back end of Liquid, and again, this can be combined, is validating and checking that with an application intelligence engine, making sure that with our around 70 virus and malware scanners, that anything that we're pulling into our setup store is validated as safe. If there are any CVs that are related with that package, you can go out and from the interface directly click on that and find out all the information you'll need to know about that particular version of that software. So taking that a little bit step further there.
Cool. This next one, I'll have you answer, Stu, just because this, I think, applies a little bit more to the Liquid store. which, as we heard, is going to migrate over to Application Manager soon. Applications, does it have multiple versions of the same application?
Yes, absolutely. So you can, if you needed to, pull in multiple different versions of the application. And Java is a horrible example of that. But there are also reasons I know of to have different versions of browsers, right? If there was a need to support different versions of plugins for Office. And I can think of a number of different reasons why you might want to do that. But those can be managed independently, and those can be applied via the contextual engine down to the end user based on what they need. Maybe finance needs something slightly different than HR, needs something slightly different than your IT admins need. That's something we can all do. Idea is to manage those things at the top level and then figure out all those contextual things in the middle, and then deploy them out as a very unique and singular way, which is do it in a way that we don't care where it's coming from, but those end users can get them.
Very good. And we have a question: does Application Manager have pre and post steps for custom actions, say like run some PowerShell scripts, etc.? So right now in this version that is currently shipping out to the world, Application Manager does not have that, does not have the pre and post steps. There is, that has been a big feature request. It is something that's being worked on. We don't have any ETA on when it's coming, but it's definitely something that we've heard you talking about. It's coming. We're just not quite sure exactly when, but that is definitely something that you'll be able to see coming into the future. Also, Stu totally showed us that on the Liquid side. So yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Yep. Whether it's MSIX, it's at the app volumes from VMware, scripts. Yeah, we really don't care what type of application you want to get to your end users and how you want to do it. And I have a lot of people that are using scripts to go out and do things as well. So. Sorry, transforms. So let's see, is it possible to have our custom.mst transforms embedded into your package? Marty, do you want to, I don't know about you guys, I can take this one from a Liquid side, which is yes, it's absolutely possible. So yes, we can handle all those MST files. We can do transforms in multiple different ways. You can have multiple different transforms associated with the single package within Liquid.
Sounds good. Right now, as I mentioned, we don't really have a way to do pre and post things. Hopefully that'll be coming. If you really needed to, you could do it inside of Config Manager itself, but that kind of defeats the purpose of complete automation. So that's not quite there yet. There was a question: is there a trial period where we can try Application Manager in our environment? There is a way to absolutely get a trial of Application Manager. Go ahead and reach out to us. What we will end up doing is setting up a time to do a proof of concept, and we'll come up with some goals that we want to achieve on that proof of concept, just to make sure that everything, that we will succeed and we can prove that we can do what we want to do. And yep, so that absolutely does exist as a thing. All right, I think that's probably it for Q&A. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah, but same on the Liquid side. All right, I think that's probably it for Q&A. Let's go ahead and move forward to our next slide.
All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. As I mentioned, we're giving away 4 $100 gift cards. These are digital gift cards you can pick from a variety of different, suppliers and stores online on where you want to use those. Everyone will have automatically been entered into that, but for those who submitted questions in the Q&A and engaged in the poll, you'll get extra entries for that. You'll be notified within the next week on who the winners are. Thank you. That wraps it up for today. For more information, of course, visit our website. And for those who reached out for a demo, we'll be setting those up with you shortly. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.